We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
It's the Weiliotis podcast.
I like it.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Weiliotis podcast. I'm here live somewhere in Nevada, but you probably already know where. And we're here to talk about movies today, as usual. With me, as always, is my co-host, my great friend, the one, the only, Mikey Wheel. How you doing today, Mikey?
Hey, what's going on? I'm good. Calling, videoing from Massachusetts. We got hit with a bunch of snow here, so I'm wishing
I'm not jealous.
I wish I were in warmer climates like you are right now. But yeah, excited to be here. This is, I believe, our 7th episode. We did a brief hiatus, and then we did a catch-up episode that will be out once this episode's out. As always, I have to put the disclaimer in there legally because we are advised by our lawyers, our law team. We are not the Ray Liotta podcast. We are the Weiliotis podcast. No relation at all. We're not here to talk about Ray Liotta, but at some point we'll probably talk about his best movie, a B movie starring Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal with bees? All right, that's my shtick. That's all the energy I have for this next podcast. Excited to be here, and this is our first guest back that we have in quite a while. So I think our last guest we had was Max, and we talked about cats. And today we are talking with Rebecca Whittle. If you want to say hello, Rebecca, say hello to our audience.
Hello, audience.
And Becky and I go back to childhood, before childhood. Yeah,
Yep.
So we knew each other. We have videos of us when we're like, I think I'm 4 months. No, I'm like half a year older than you.
Well, yeah, you're like a full 9 months older than me, so you were just
Yeah.
a little chunker running around, and I was in a. Question: do people still put their kids in walkers? Because I was definitely in a walker, and I don't think we put
I
our
think so.
babies in walkers. Do we do?
Yeah.
The ones with the wheels?
Yeah, I think
We
so.
have a Mustang. We have a Mustang one. It's a little
Yeah.
toy baby Mustang, and it like
Oh.
grows with him. So that's Oh yeah, walkers. We also have a thing that hangs on the doorway, and it's a swing that you can bounce him in or swing him in, and he loves it.
Yeah.
Loves it. But yeah, Becky and I,
That is
we've been through a lot. Let's recount some of the good memories.
Sure.
We used to play the Are You Afraid of the Dark computer game growing up. Which
Yeah, it was this terrifying game. Who was I trying to explain it to the other day? How Mikey and I couldn't even get through this game. This is how scary it was. Like, I always liked Are You Afraid of the Dark, the show, but there's a video game where a girl and her brother get trapped inside a haunted theater of like a scary magician man, and the brother, the big dumb idiot, just like walks into a closet. It gets locked in there. So the girl's job is to like find the key throughout this haunted museum, but at one point a mummy just straight up chases you. And Mikey and I tried to play it again when we were a little bit older. I think
Yep,
we had to have
yep.
been like middle school age. Like you think it wouldn't have terrified us as much, but like we were in your basement on that like old Mac, and I remember being so terrified just running straight up the stairs. I never beat the game. I don't know.
Yep.
Like we were terrified.
I think if we still played it, we would be scared. And I mean, with
Yeah.
today, like everything just makes a comeback these days. 3D Doritos are back now.
Right.
I feel if we looked online, we could probably find a playable version of the game in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm
And
sure
also,
somebody's
like,
brought it back.
It was, but it's so funny because it was so slow. So when the mummy chased you, it was like,
But when it first comes out at you.
yeah, we're like, ah!
Yep.
Mikey always had to do scary stuff in his basement too. Like we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I had to sleep in that basement all by myself.
How old were you?
We watched 8th grade. 8th grade, we watched a lot
Yeah,
of
8th
horror.
grade.
No matter what, that
The
movie
Ring.
is like still like scary, honestly.
Oh, it still holds up.
And
The Ring.
Mikey was the king of like the weird, scary movies from Japan. Like you could never just watch like a normal scary movie. And what was it? Your 21st birthday? I was like, I never like drank or partied growing up, but then you turned 21, and so I'm still 20. I was like, I'm gonna go to Mikey's. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna have a party. I walked down into his freaking basement, and it was like still like we were in the 8th grade. We were watching some weird Japanese horror movie.
Yep.
All your friends lined up on a couch like this. I'm like, nothing's changed, and this is the.
Yep.
We're not getting crazier. We're just gonna watch this Japanese horror.
Every year for my birthday, I'd watch a horror movie
Yeah.
or like a B list so bad it's good, like
Yeah.
Sharknado-ish movie of those times, and people would
100%.
go, I don't want to watch that. And I go, it's my birthday one day a year.
Yeah.
Suck it up, come over, and we're gonna watch, Trolls 2 or whatever it was. But
Oh yeah.
we watched a lot of horror. I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid, and that's why I love horror so much.
Right.
that-
Well, Mikey was the one to introduce me to one of my all-time favorite movies, which is Cloverfield. And my sister had we had a graduation party for my sister. So this was early 2008. And I remember seeing Mikey, and you had just seen it, and you were telling me all about it. I saw the movie 3 times in the theater.
I saw it twice. You got
Did I
me
see it
beat.
with you?
I saw it with you your second or third time because I went back my second time only to see the satellite fall at the very
Yes,
end.
yeah.
I
Took me
went
like
back
2 or
to
3
see
times
it
to see
Yep.
the satellite
just
fall.
for that one scene. I went back, and that movie I nerded out for. That and Avatar are the only movies I've nerded out over.
I loved Cloverfield because I loved like the way that they use social media, because like we hadn't used social media to really promote things that way, I think, ever. And the way that they did it, like I loved it. I was so obsessed with all the trivia about, oh my gosh, I was
The websites.
Wow. I remember that now because I feel like late 2000s, I feel like, because that was 2008, right? Cloverfield. And then 2009, I believe, was Paranormal Activity, which also utilized social media to its advantage.
Demand Me in Your
chills
City.
thinking about that movie, Tom.
They were the first people who used the Demand Us in Your City, which they put so much of their advertising budget into a new tool that you put on your Facebook or MySpace.
Because it was just like such a small movie. Didn't you? They all got paid like $500 for doing that movie.
If I remember it correctly, and this is what I remember and always stuck with me, and I could be wrong on part of it. The director of the movie was a film professor, and he used 2 of his students in the movie. And most of the money, besides the advertising, was used to rip up the floorboard in his house. So the director had a little bit of money,
It was his house, wasn't it?
Yep. And he spent money ripping up the floorboard and putting in shittier floorboard because he wanted the audience to believe that this young couple would not have this brand new, like, nice floor. So I mean, like,
it's supposed to be like their starter home, and
that movie, I don't think I've seen like the last 1 or 2, but
they're
2
good.
and
They're still
2
good.
and 3 were just as good. If not
3
better.
will mess you up. Like 3 will.
Yeah. Is 3 the one where, like, I forget, I don't remember the characters. It's been a while, but like one of the characters walks into the kitchen and there's nothing in the kitchen, and then everything's on the ceiling that just falls down.
Yeah.
That's an amazing shot.
Is that 3? I think so. Yeah.
What's the one where you find out the history of the sisters? Is that 2 or 3?
Yeah, a little more history about the sisters. Takes place in the 80s. I wish I wasn't talking about this like with no one home right now. Now I'm terrified.
There is a horror movie about Zoom right now that's out. It's all done completely over Zoom and a seance that they do. But we won't do a seance tonight.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's something we would do.
Hey, we're recording it, so at least we'll get famous out of it.
God, I swear that's gonna be like a genre one day. It's gonna be like Zoom exploitation or something. It's just gonna be all genre movies all on Zoom or something.
Right.
There's gonna be people at work like with their fly down, they don't know about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be horror stories. Yeah, people are making movies on backup cameras in cars, GoPros, cell phones. I mean,
and music videos too. Like a lot of stars are doing that now, right?
Yeah, I mean Bruno Mars when he did what was that? Stay at Home. What was that song? I don't remember it.
Was it from recently, or actually he hasn't put out music in a while.
Way long ago.
Yeah.
It was all about just staying home doing nothing.
Oh, the one where he's like, don't feel like picking up my phone, so leave.
Oh yeah, that's like his big song that got him big, right?
Say I don't feel like doing anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and he used like him and his friends in monkey masks, and like he could have used millions of dollars to make a music video, and instead he just shot it with his friends at home for free.
And that was a while ago too. That was before like phones were really, really good.
Yeah. So what else? What else can we, before we get into it? We know each other for 32 years. What else? Becky does a great Cartman voice, which maybe we can get out of her by the end of the episode.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe she can sign off with that. You are the biggest
South Park fan. I love South Park, Family Guy. I just love all those like ridiculous like adult cartoons. I love Rick and Morty.
I haven't watched that.
What, Rick and Morty?
Oh,
I watched the Pickle Rick episode and was like severely disturbed by it, and haven't gone back.
Pickle Rick.
that
Also love
episode,
Bob's Burgers. Like, I don't know,
yeah,
just
that
always
show's
like
great.
that dumb like cartoon comedy where a lot of people like don't understand like why I would think it's funny, and I just crack up. I could watch it all day, every day.
And that's what so Becky's here to talk about a movie, Drop Dead Gorgeous, which we'll get into soon. And Becky was a pageant person back in the
Yeah,
day, pageant star. And I know Becky as the person who does Cartman voices, and
yeah.
we used to throw each other down the steps wrestling. And everybody else knows her as a pageant person. So I know the real Becky, and I think that that's what we're going to learn on the podcast today. I'm
Yeah.
too close to
So
the
the two
camera.
times that like Mikey and I almost killed each other, I somehow pushed you down the like you know, did you, I don't know, Tom, if you grew up with hardwood floors, like I didn't,
Mhm.
but like Mikey's stairs were hardwood and I pushed him down and he fell down the entire flight of stairs. But like
This
you
explains a
weren't
lot.
even trying to get me back, Mikey, but at one point you pushed me into your parents' like outdoor lamppost.
Yep. Yep.
And I just
Yep.
banged right into it. The whole thing was like
Oof.
and
Yep.
broke, went to the side, completely blew the bulb out. I'm like, how are our heads like? Well,
And one day our kids will do the same things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, so we are very excited to learn more about your pageant background. But let's get out, because I don't think we have much. Let's get out our early stuff first. So
okay.
and Becky, you're of course included in this part. Movies you guys have been watching, or TV shows you've been watching lately. What have you liked? What have you not liked? What are you addicted to?
You guys should go first.
Okay. The only movie I've watched recently, and I was lucky to see it in theaters, was Nomadland, which is the
Mhm.
new what's her name? Chloe Zhao, I think is how you pronounce it. She's a Chinese
Ah.
director, and she's made a couple movies so far, but that was pretty fan. I liked it a lot. Like Frances McDormand stars, and
The best.
it's like it's kind of just like a slice of life movie. Like she's already well into her nomad life. She's working all these odd jobs, and it's pretty beautiful. Like it all takes place in Nevada too, mostly, which is nice. So you get a lot of like. It's funny because I saw it in IMAX. That was the only way to see it.
Oh wow.
And I know like a month or maybe like back in December, they announced that it was going to be shown in IMAX, even though it wasn't filmed on IMAX cameras. But it kind of benefits from it because there's a lot of just like natural beauty in it. Obviously, you just have like canyons and sandstone mounds and and all that stuff in the movie. It's kind of like the backdrop of everything. But no, it was really good. I think it might already be on Hulu now. I
Yeah.
realized when I saw it that like from that point, I think it was like 4 days after they were going to put it on Hulu. But it was worth seeing in theaters anyway.
I would have never thought Frances McDormand would do an IMAX movie. That seems so
Yeah.
outside of her realm. For me, I watched Crawl. Tom and I are writing
Oh, nice.
an alligator horror movie. So
Nice.
I finally got around and watched that. It's the newest Sam Raimi movie. The next one he's doing is Doctor Strange 2, which is the second Marvel horror movie. Don't bother watching New Mutants, the first of the horror movies in that. That's just the worst
These are
movie
all
ever.
talking about movies I've never heard of.
Now you know. But yeah, we've been watching The Return of Teen Mom. Of course, Teen
Okay.
Mom's back, so we watched that. The Bachelor. Still watching Your Honor with Bryan Cranston. I started Billions. Succession's not gonna be back on for a while, so I'm watching Billions, which I got into pretty fast after the first episode. Still rewatching Raising Hope after Cloris Leachman passed away. What else have we been watching?
Oh, yo, is Billions? Is that show's already over, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I think it's about 6 seasons. I didn't know. It was
Wait,
done
really? There's
until
6 seasons of it?
5 or 6. Succession's only
Wow.
2 or 3, and then they're still in
'Cause-
shutdown production.
Wow,
But
time's going by fast. Because I feel like I remember like a year or two ago, like just seeing ads for that show. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe I got it
It's-
confused with
it's-
Succession or something. But like,
it's fantastic.
what is it?
It's
Paul
really good.
Giamatti and what's his name?
Damian Lewis.
Damian Lewis from Homeland.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Band of Brothers. Yeah, he's good.
I know him from Dragonfly. So Dragonfly is like an early 2000s, 1990s Stephen King movie with Jason Lee, Damian Lewis, Donnie Wahlberg, and it's about like these kids who, it's so Stephen King, as kids they met this alien, and now it's like they're all grown up and they come back together for a weekend, and it's like they're trying to find. I can't
Does it
go
take
more,
place in
but
Maine?
probably,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is that it?
of course, yeah. Where else? And it's probably Red Sox baseball game in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that kind of does it for me. I'm always just watching. I watched the new Keenan show. Keenan has this,
Is it good?
Keenan. Yeah, it's not bad. It's Chris Red. It's not laugh track, so I like that part a lot.
Oh yeah, I have to ask
Yeah.
because it's funny. My roommate and I, we keep seeing ads like every time we're just chilling, watching something on Facebook and or on YouTube. And yeah, you're right. There's no laugh track. It's a single camera sitcom, but it looks like a multi-camera sitcom. Like the way it's filmed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
does it still look like a regular sitcom, or does it have more like cinematic like things going on? Or
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of everything. I mean, there's no laugh track. It does feel like it's multi-camera, which is interesting. And like you're waiting for the laugh track every time and it doesn't hit. That just makes me happy because I hate laugh track stuff.
I feel
But
like
yeah,
he gets some type of like lifetime award. He went right from all that Nickelodeon,
Yes.
right? Like even like remember when we were kids, we were just like, he's going to be on SNL. Like that
little
is
kid SNL to
yeah,
yeah.
all that. That's
Yeah.
such a good show, and it's crazy now because he's still on SNL. He has that show,
Yeah.
and he's hosting the like Nickelodeon Kids Choice Awards this year. So he's like he's everywhere. It's cool. I like him a lot.
Which is so funny because like first of all, he doesn't look like he's aged a minute.
Nope,
Like,
not
think
at
back
all.
when we were like 9 and 10 years old, and he was like ruling our world, and like he still is.
Yeah, because
The
I
guy,
think he's like 42 or something. Yeah, he still looks like he's in his 20s.
I don't know if you are a Dancing with the Stars fan at all either, but you said Keenan. Now I'm gonna think of Kel. But Kel was on Dancing with the Stars a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And he has kids, and again, they don't look like they have changed one bit, like at all.
No.
And he was really good. I think Kel came in like 4th place or something.
What are you talking about?
Just Kel from Keenan and Kel, and how he's on Dancing with the Stars.
Last season, right?
Not this past season, but the season before. I'm pretty sure he was on.
Yeah, I watched it. Yep. I had to let the dogs out, so I'll have to get them again in a minute. So our other what have you been watching, Becky? Unless I missed something just now.
No, not really. But I watch Fred and I have my husband's name is Fred, and we have been very into Schitt's Creek. So we're on the 6th season of that. And then not a ton of stuff. He does love The Sopranos, so he will watch that, and I will start watching it and I'll fall asleep on the couch. So like it's funny, like we definitely have our shows together and then we have the shows like apart. So like I'm totally cool to sit down and watch The Sopranos, but it's like more his thing. But when I'm just around and he's not, I turn on Blackish. Like that show just cracks me up.
I watched it a few times. Like it always comes on after the show I'm watching on Hulu. It always picks up from like the last episode or something.
And I'm catching up with This Is Us.
Oh, we're too behind.
I'm not caught up on this week, but my mom said it was actually very, very good this week. I'm getting a little sick of it. I don't know, kind of over it, but yeah, that's what I've been watching. And then I'll just I'm a girl, so I'll watch some YouTube people who are doing makeup. And there's this one woman, Jamie French, on YouTube. She's a makeup artist, but she does makeup in movies, and she always reviews 90s like the best of the worst 90s movies, like She's All That, Crossroads, all those just great 90s teen movies. She'll review them, and she'll, as she does her makeup, like to look like something that would be out of the movie. So I love that.
That's a great idea for a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I know, yeah.
You got to send us the link for that after.
Yeah. And I loved those movies too. So it's like, it's so much fun to watch. Like, did you know that Aaron Carter had a movie?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, which one?
What is it?
Oh, it's called like Pop Star.
I think I've seen it. Yeah, he has like one
movie. I didn't know that. Oh, I used to listen to him in college so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we loved Aaron Carter.
I remember like late 90s, early 2000s. I feel like you had Crossroads with Britney Spears, and then I remember American Idol season 1. They made a movie with Kelly Clarkson and whatever.
He does that one too.
Yeah,
from Justin to Kelly.
From Justin to Kelly. It is sad too because like Kelly Clarkson's been interviewed to talk about how miserable she was making that movie, but it was in their contract. Whoever were the top 2 were going to be in that movie. But
really?
she does a great job of making that movie.
So it could have been called From Ruben to Clay if they had won.
Oh, yeah.
Mikey, she does do some Goosebumps shows too. You would like.
Ooh, yeah, I love Goosebumps. I think there's some new Goosebumps books coming out now too. I love them. My neighbor's house here actually has a bunch of skeletons on the roof. I guess that's kept there from Halloween, and it looks like a Goosebumps book cover. Like it's so cool. I love the Goosebumps movie is really good with Jack Black. It's very funny and kind of combines a lot of stories. But those were not they were not funny books if you go back and really.
I don't think they were supposed to be.
No, like
No.
they were like our Twilight Zone as kids. I mean,
Yeah.
the one that I remember most was the kids who got in trouble in school had nails on the chalkboard, like for eternity. So if you got in trouble, you got set into this little closet, and you were in there for eternity, listening to somebody scratching nails on the board.
Yeah, it's like I feel like that show or in the books too were like cruel, but like cruel enough for kids. You know, it was enough to be like to kind of scare you. But yeah, the show was great. I forget what episode it was. The one where the father's like a biologist or something, and he has like some crazy plant growing or something, and it like grows onto him or something. I forget. I haven't watched that show in so long, but
so many movies have taken Say Cheese and Die from R.L. Stine. There's that one where they pick up the camera at the yard sale, and then every time you take a picture of somebody, they die after. And I feel like that like has been done so many times recently. But there was a movie recently called Polaroid, which was exactly about that same premise. Yeah, exact same thing.
It's a cool idea. I know even Stephen King has a book like that, I think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Or something where it's like you take a picture and it shows you something like 5 minutes in the future or something like that.
Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a cool idea.
I like that. I'm still waiting on my dog here. So all right, any movie news that you're excited about? I'll kick it off. The Cruella de Vil trailer came out, which looks pretty cool with Emma Stone. I haven't seen it yet, but the Mortal Kombat trailer came out today. A lot of people are excited. It's a Red Band trailer right off the bat. What else did I see recently? Godzilla's coming out next month.
My dad asked me if I wanted to see it. I'm like, no.
I can't wait. We've talked about it a lot in this podcast. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think so far every new episode we've made, we've like mentioned it at least once.
We had it as a background on one of our podcast episodes.
Oh yeah, yep. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but you know, kind of in the best way. I think at this point, I'd like to think that like Warner Brothers is, you know, they understand that this is ridiculous, like a giant monster attacking the city. So, because I feel like the last couple movies were really self-serious. They just, I don't know, they really want you to focus on the human element of it. But it's like I think most people are going to watch these movies. Just
I have a question too. Like with these movies like Godzilla and stuff, like are they remakes? Is it because they do like Jack Black was in one? What, like 2013, 2015?
This is a totally different series.
So
it's a reboot.
A monster attacking the city. Like, how many times can you do that in how many different ways? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Is it always New York?
No. Well, no, because I think the first time it was New York was actually the '90s one, the Roland Emmerich one. Because obviously, you know, it's from Japan. Like Godzilla is from Japan, and yeah, I think it took a while for it to actually get over to the United States, like actually like take place in the United States. But like all these new ones, yeah, like Mike said, they're kind of like reboots. Like they're kind of, I think they're separate from all the other movies, and they're kind of trying to be their own thing, but still like have the same monsters and all that. So, but
gotcha.
There's a lot of movies. There's like, oh man, there's like 30 plus movies. I think there's so many Godzilla movies.
What'd you say, Becky?
Is that an animal making noise?
No, that was might have been. I was letting the boys inside, giving them treats, and then I was.
I heard like a wow.
Jen was watching something in the next room where I was giving them treats. Man, I gotta take a breath now. That's too much energy for me.
I've never seen someone walk with like the Zoom background.
Yeah, the green screen. Anybody can do it, and this is my green screen from our movie we're going to talk about. Anybody else? Any other movie news? Tom, do you have?
The only one, because I should have prepared more, but the only one I can really think of that's notable is you brought it up earlier before we started. Is Jesse Plemons now starring in the newest Martin Scorsese movie, which is cool.
Yep.
Because
Leonardo is now supporting.
Yeah. So that's cool because last episode I mentioned some casting in that movie, and yeah, any new Scorsese I'm excited for, and Jesse Plemons is great. I like him in most things I've watched, so that's cool. I don't know, it's cool seeing, you know, it's kind of like back in 2013 when Jonah Hill was in Wolf of Wall Street. Like it was like, oh my god, Jonah Hill's in a Martin Scorsese movie. But I think this is even cooler because I think Jesse Plemons is like one of the best actors working today. So
Plemons is great. He's gonna get nominated for this, if not something else soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's about it. Do you have any movie news or?
Nothing like standing out to me that I didn't even know is coming out. Like I just don't follow, and I'm sorry. I'm like I'm like the worst person to be on this podcast.
No, you're good.
You'll be
Like,
good
my
in the
focus
second
is
half.
great.
You'll be good in the second half.
Yeah, we honestly like we do the whole movie news thing before, but like we bring on guests for like the the bulk of like whatever we're talking about, like the
the
movie
meat,
or
the meat of the podcast.
the meat of it. Yeah.
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 So let's good segue. Let's dive into it. So
Cool.
we decided to cover a movie. We wanted Becky to come on. We knew she was in a pageant, and we kind of talked about 3 movies that come to mind. Little Miss Sunshine, of course, cult classic. Miss Congeniality, who doesn't love the first one and even the second one, and
Ugh.
then Drop Dead Gorgeous. You didn't like the second one?
The second one's so bad.
Is it? I don't remember that well, but I thought it was like a pretty well received sequel. No? Legally Blonde too.
That is Legally Blonde too.
Yeah, that is a good one. And then we basically thought about this movie, Drop Dead Gorgeous. Came out in 1999, starring Kirsten Dunst, Allison Janney, Denise Richards, as you can see in my picture and Tom's picture, Amy Adams.
Yeah, in her first role, I believe.
Her first movie. Yep.
I did not remember that, or I guess I didn't know she was back then. Who else is in it?
Too.
Brittany Murphy.
Mm.
Yep. It's a great cast, and basically it's Kirstie
Oh,
Alley, of
yep.
course. It's basically a very small town, kind of white trash Minnesota town, and every year they have a pageant, and it just kind of it's very Christopher Guest. That's what I loved about it right off the bat. Like rewatching it, is it's done very mockumentary style. It's very in your face interviews like The Office, very awkward. They don't cut when they should cut. And it's just a very, very dark comedy, literally about the Drop Dead Gorgeous, because there's murder and deaths and accidents that happen throughout the movie. And I'll just to start off, I'll say I felt like this was a Mandela effect, because we tried finding the movie and could not find it anywhere. Like you talk into your TV and it will say it's on YouTube,
It says
Tubi,
it's on Netflix.
Hulu, but it's
So
a
I'm like,
different.
oh, it's on Netflix. No way.
Yep. It's a
Nope.
there's another movie called Drop Dead Gorgeous,
yeah.
which is like a
Something made
parody
in
movie.
2010 about like it's like a horror film of a
Yep.
gorgeous girl and her friends, and they get murdered.
Yeah, how could you steal
Tell
this
us all
movie
this
title?
time.
Yeah. And I thought it was a Mandela effect, because I was like, does this movie not exist? Was it called something else? And I think we have to kind of kick it off by saying the movie does not hold up to today's standards. It is very non-PC. We will say that, but it does have a lot of humor to it in terms of Allison Janney playing the kind of mom's best friend to Kirsten Dunst, and like Kirsten Dunst's mom in the movie has a cigarette and a beer in her hand every time, and like none of them care they're on camera in this documentary. Like
The thing I love about Allison Janney is probably one of my favorite characters in this movie, because Allison Janney just plays that like white trash neighbor who's also like your best friend confidant. Like it's the same role that she plays in Juno. It's the same role that she plays in I, Tonya, and she plays it so fantastically. Like her and Brittany Murphy are probably my 2 favorite characters in it, just because like they're the unsung heroes of this movie. Like
I agree, MVP for sure. Because you're right, she plays that, like you're right. Someone hits like she always has like a cigarette in her hand or something, and she always has some shit to say, and she just owns it every time.
She had sex with someone at the national pageant. She's like, "Hey, Loretta, I got some."
Oh yeah.
on the news. What I liked about Allison Janney's character too is there's not 1 ounce of bad person to her. Like the whole entire movie. So in the movie, Kirsten Dunst's mom gets blown up in her trailer while holding a beer, so she can't watch her daughter in person at the pageant because there's a beer glued to her hand and she's still in the hospital and her face is half red. But the whole entire movie is Allison Janney, which seems like is riding the coattails of Kirsten Dunst to these like big hotels and these getaway retreats.
Takes her basically as her chaperone,
and she like doesn't take advantage of the scenario. She just goes along with her and helps her and gives her guidance.
We'll talk about like there's just so many elements of like, of course, I love movies like Miss Congeniality and what's the other one we're going to be talking about? Little Miss Sunshine.
Little Miss Sunshine.
Yeah. This movie, I feel like, does the best for just capturing what it's like in these small town local pageants. And with Allison Janney's character, she does capture that mom's best friend so well. And so many pageant girls have, they obviously have their moms there, but like a lot of times their moms do bring their friends to the pageants. Like their moms are like, Mikey knows, like our moms are best friends. And
Hmm.
our moms talk probably more than our parents talk to their siblings. Like they have these bonds that are so like connected. And so yeah, like you probably, Mikey, know everything going on in my life, like I know everything going on, like all in the best way, obviously, because they just love us so much. But like that's what I love about her character. It's like, because we, a lot of us do have that person in our life when we're doing pageants.
I think my mom went to one of your pageants.
Yeah, I think she did.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
100% did.
yep.
Um, which is, it's nice to have that support, because when you're out there, trust me, I've been in the situation when you're out there and there's not one person like in your corner cheering for you. It's really sad. So when they can bring anyone to the pageant, you're ecstatic.
And
That's what I love about like her character.
could you kind of give us a background? I know we'll be getting into it,
Yeah,
and you could talk for days, if not months,
right.
about your experience. But
No.
tip of the iceberg, from the first thing you did up till recently. What's your history with pageants been like?
Yeah. So as you know, Mikey, I did not grow up in this world of pageants. Um I was a kid who played in the dirt. I was always outside playing on the street, and my big thing is I loved softball. So I was a pitcher, I played softball for many, many years. And when I was 14, so like back then, and this is definitely one of the big things in the movie, is like, was if you wanted to get into any type of modeling or anything, you either had to go to modeling school like a Barbizon, or in this case I forget the name of the modeling school in this movie, but they're the ones who like sponsor the pageant.
That Sally Rose Cosmetics or
Yeah, yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah,
Sally Rose Cosmetics, Miss American Teen Princess pageant.
yeah. Don't
um
you know?
so there's stuff like that. Or so you go to modeling school, or you go audition for an agency. So I, and a lot of times like back then, before social media, I'm going back to like 2004-ish. um Around that time, your parents had to take you to either audition or see if you can get into like a modeling school. So my parents, I begged my parents, I heard about it on the radio, um, to take me to an agency in Boston. And I was a freshman in high school. And like I read the script and everything, in front of a green screen, which I had never done. Also, I did not grow up like acting. Lindsay was in a play of Oliver once, and when my mom asked me if I wanted to audition, I was 9 years old. I said, I don't want to be in a foreign film, like a foreign play. Like, that's how naive and dumb I was. But
Your
also,
dad, your dad was a photographer. You
yeah,
were
my dad was a
probably,
photographer, so I was
yeah,
constantly getting my picture taken. But
yeah.
I never. I mean, I was a Piccalilli lady um in my middle school's play of The Music Man Junior. But that's basically it. Like I had no acting experience, no modeling experience. um and we grew up with our best friends Hannah and Max, who you guys interviewed last. Max,
Yep.
we grew up going to their plays all the time, like 3 or 4 times a year. I mean, they were in these fantastic productions, which is so funny because they're from like a pretty small town up
Hmm.
near Vermont, and they put on like these very, very well done shows. So we were always going to that. So I was always watching them, and never did I say like, I should try getting out there. Like I should take an acting class or something. Never did. So anyway, they took me to, a lot of agencies, they're gonna kind of dick you around, and they're gonna say like, you're so pretty, and even though we're not gonna sign you now, we want you to be a part of our 20-week program, and you were chosen.
Intensive.
Yeah, intensive. You were chosen. We pick 5 people out of 75 people, this, that, the other thing. And again, I'm in high school, 14 years old. And then they're like, and it's only $2,000. And $2,000 back in like 2004, especially with my two parents who um, both worked for themselves out of our house, like that, you might as well have just said $20,000. Like
Like
that
a
was
car back then. You could buy a car back then for that and
right.
get around for a while.
Also, what a lot of people like need to know too is if you do want to get into any type of modeling or acting, you have to go to a city. Like you have to go to Boston, you have to go to New York, and we were from, not far from Boston, but still like to even just get into Boston, um it's not always easy, especially when you're in high school and your parents have to drive you. And it's always my dad with his fanny pack and his sweatpants and his New Balance sneakers. Like it was not two matches made in heaven. So we passed on that. I know, such a great opportunity. How could you have passed on that? And then I
Are
heard
the
it
people in the mall real? If I can ask that, like,
what?
does that really happen? The people in the mall who, like, you walk in like the food court and they come up to you and they're like, "Hey, have you ever thought about modeling?"
Maybe. I think so, but if they are, I think that's more for like the Barbizon, Abercrombie and Fitch trying to hire people.
To
I don't know
stand
if
in
it's
their
really
door?
gonna lead to anything of substance.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then my junior year comes along, and they were just like had a morning announcements that there was a teen pageant coming up for scholarship money, and I told my parents I wanted to do it. I was wildly unprepared, like so unprepared. Like if you go into a pageant thinking like I'm decent looking, um, I could put on a dress and walk around and blah blah, and like you have no idea what you're about to get into unless you like. I had never even gone to a pageant physically to watch one before that, and you just get there, and then it's like you and 30 other people who are prettier than you, more talented than you, smarter than you, um, can walk better than you. And it's very much like the point in Drop Dead Gorgeous when she shows up to the state pageant and she's watching all the girls do their talents. Like I took that down as a note. And I'm like, I know that feeling of just walking in and being like, what am I actually doing here? So needless to say, I did not make the top 10. And that was the very first time I heard, I walked backstage and, you know, after not making the top 10 and someone looked at me and said, but did you have fun? And that's when you just like you have no emotion until someone asks you that question, and then you just like are so upset and you just go back and you cry. You're like, because then you think about it too, you're like, did I have fun? Was this fun? I don't know. Like I don't think so. Like
It's
all this.
work. It's a job.
Yeah, then you're questioning everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then after that, I competed for many years at the local level, state level, and I've competed now in 4 national pageants.
Mhm.
So my last pageant I did, I was 29 years old. And
Wow.
so yeah,
That's an
that's
aging model right there. That's like an athlete.
you know what's so funny is well thank you. Yeah, aging. I'm not even 30. Well, I am now, but I was one of the youngest there. It was specifically for women who are married. It was a Mrs. pageant, and I was actually one of the youngest. I'd say that the people who actually did the best, like in the top 16 finalists, were probably within the ages of like 36 to 40.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah, they all were married. No, mind you, I was married to my husband for 5 full months before I decided to do this Mrs. pageant. So at the pageant, at that time when I got to the pageant, we were married for 7 months. So they announced like when you're walking and doing your evening, I'm like, she's been married to her husband Bill for 15 years. She's been married to her husband Kurt for 22 years. And literally they come up to me like, she's been married to her husband for 7 full months. Like if there was an award for married the shortest, it was me. But the pageant has been around. Technically, it started in the 30s, and women did things for their talents. There had like talent portions then. They don't anymore in the one that I just did. But um, there were women who would like show how to make a bed. There it was a homemaker competition. It was what's your favorite recipe? What kind of pies do you make? But then it
Stepford Wives on stage.
kind of faded out in the 60s, and then the owners who own it now bought it in the 70s. So it's this I'm like, I don't think this paperwork has changed since the
Oh, it's the
70s.
same
Oh,
questions like all these years.
Maybe, who
Yeah,
knows?
I mean, it kind of sounds like it, honestly.
Yeah. But it was cool. It was definitely different to compete against other married women because the first time in my life I was with women who had kids, had pretty decent careers. They just had very different values than the women I was normally competing against. Not saying that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it was different. Like they weren't also jaded. Like not a lot of them have been competing their whole lives. Some of them didn't start competing until they were 30, 33 or so. So it was kind of cool. It was different.
And now, with the talents you're talking about in Miss Congeniality,
Yeah.
If somebody at a real pageant that you were at
Mhm.
came out and did the water glass thing that Sandra Bullock does,
Yeah.
how would that be received from the audience? Would that be like a
No,
disqualified?
no, I don't know. I've seen all types of talents. The typical talents that you're going to see are singers and dancers. And when
Baton,
I say
baton.
dancers, you'll see tap dancers, lyrical dancers, ballet dancers, point dancers. One of my favorites, Irish step dancing.
Cool.
So, but then you're going to see singers, you're going to see opera singers, you'll see and people who sing more Broadway-ish, all different types. But then like, I've seen my fair of different talents. Like, so if I ever saw water glasses, I honestly, because now mind you, too, guys, I've judged many times too. If I
Mhm.
see something that is just different from singing and dancing, I am automatically intrigued. Unless it's a monologue. No offense. Oh my God.
Fair, fair.
Some people do monologues or they'll make a speech and I'm like, you're literally just saying words. Like that
Yeah.
like I know acting is not easy. Um, but I guess I just don't see it as a talent.
Is
Um
that more of a rare thing, or do you think a lot of contestants try to do monologues?
the ones who do monologues, they do it because they did not grow up singing or dancing or doing or
and
baton twirling.
and probably because they want to get from modeling into acting, right? This is like their demo reel, or they think that maybe a scout's going to be in the audience. Do you think, or no?
No, it
It's
might just be because they don't know how to do anything else. I might be shooting myself in the foot by saying this. Um, but some of my favorites that I've seen too that like aren't singing, dancing, the typical stuff, like I have seen one okay, I saw one girl at a local pageant who it's gonna sound silly, but actually at the time I thought it was very entertaining. She recited all every single US president.
okay.
But
Cool.
she did it in like she did it to patriotic music. She did it she like speed did it because you only have 90 seconds now for talent. And then at the end, it was in 2012 when the election was, and so at the end she finished it off with like, and who's gonna be next? You decide. And people like lost their mind. It was actually she actually was first runner up.
That must have been from Animaniacs, right? Because Animaniacs does the song about all the states and the capitals. They must have one about presidents.
I'm guessing, yeah, because you know how a lot of kids they'll do a song or whatever
Yeah.
to remember, like, yeah, states and capitals
Yeah.
and whatnot. So I actually thought that was really interesting. I competed with one girl who her talent was speed painting. So
Cool.
she would come out with an easel, it would be upside down, or she would paint it upside down, and in the end she would turn it.
Yep.
So
I've
that was
seen
kind of
that
cool.
before. Yeah,
So
I've seen that on
when
America's
you're
Got
judging,
Talent.
when you're judging on the entertainment value. Did this person entertain me? Do I want to see it again? So I am not a natural dancer. Like if I was a dancer and if I grew up dancing and then I was a judge, I would be judging those dancers on the technique, um, the certain types of spins and jumps and this, that, the other thing. But for me, where I grew up more of a singer, not knowing too much about dance, I'm purely grading this woman on would I watch that again? So
Okay.
if she could be making mistakes, I don't even know.
It's not like America's Got Talent where they're like, your
Yeah,
index finger wasn't extended enough, so
I'm
you
not
get a
like that.
six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I always was hoping you'd do a Cartman impression at some point. You'd come out and just do Cartman and then just
Oh
like
yeah,
drop
I
the
did that.
mic.
So we had a pageant, a little like small one at my college, and I did do that on stage. I didn't win, but um, I did do it at one point. I know my mom was like, "I just wish that you would just like finish up your career with doing a Cartman."
Go out with a bang. And then
Yeah.
didn't you use like devil sticks in your last one?
I did not compete with devil sticks ever. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, devil sticks are almost baton-ish, but you hold two sticks, you hold a stick in each hand and then you flip another stick with it. And I just like grew up doing it for fun. It's kind of goofy. I just don't know how I would have been able to turn into a talent and have people taking me
It
seriously.
was it was like the modern day hacky sack. It had like,
Kinda, yeah.
yeah, like it was had the
I
little
still have
like.
I have the same exact devil sticks that I've had since I was 12 years old.
'Cause remember you asking me about them like before you were gonna do your talent or something. So you must have been trying to figure out what you were gonna do. And
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I would know. I was one of those girls, like, because you literally you compete against girls who have been dancing their whole life or they've been doing baton since they were 3. Um, I mean, I was in chorus growing up, but other than that, I didn't have a like that strong of a talent. And in the pageants I was doing, talent is the highest weighed category. So it's almost like, is this a talent show or is it not? But
Yeah.
that's where it is a little frustrating. But that's why I wrote down all of the talents that the girls do in Drop Dead Gorgeous, because they
Yep.
just make me laugh so hard.
Is now my picture here is not a talent technically, but they all come out and do an American thing. Denise
So
Richards.
yes, a lot of pageants, I don't know why pageants always have to have a theme. Why can't the theme just be pageant? Like,
It's always
Yeah.
patriotic, right? Do you get
yeah, a
more
lot of times
points?
it's patriotic. I love their use of theme with that though. And when the girl came out with a ball of yarn,
Oh yes.
she just goes, "I didn't understand the assignment."
Yeah, and
I'm
then
like,
it falls off her head. That the
yeah,
timing of all
I
that
did a
is so funny.
pageant. There's a pageant out there where you have to, for some reason, one of the categories is like a decorating your jeans category. And these girls come out and like just all this garbage on their jeans.
Gems.
Bedazzle
Like
it,
Gems.
right?
puff paint,
Yeah.
bedazzle. But I did this pageant once and the director did not tell me about this phase of competition.
Oh.
So it was a pageant. It was actually after that very first pageant that I told you about that I did. I didn't do well. And I came out in a pair of like khakis. I'm like, I didn't understand the assignment. There were three of us, and I was the second runner up. I came in last. It was at a fair.
What
So yeah.
Well,
can you see? Because I've done stand-up comedy and stuff and played music on stage, and a lot of times the light's blinding you, so you don't really get that stage fright if you were to have it. When you
Yeah.
come out on stage in khakis and you're not supposed to be wearing khakis, do you see the audience or the lights kind of in your face? Like, what does that audience look
In
like
that
to you?
situation, I did because it was a fair pageant.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're
There were no
literally
lights.
there's no lights.
There
Yeah,
was
you're
the sun.
next to pig poop. So yeah, but at that point too, no one's making any shocked faces. They're just like, "Mm,
I'm gonna go look at the bearded lady now instead.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah."
yeah.
Like I didn't affect anyone's life by
Yeah.
not showing up with the decorated jeans.
What were you gonna ask, Tom?
well, I was just kind of leading back into this. I was going to say this might be the most obvious question of the night, Becky, but like just relatability factor because it's funny. I've heard of this movie for a long time, but this was kind of a blind spot for like cult movie, more like culty movies, and I loved it obviously, but like I was thinking about it, and there's so many. Even though I obviously have never like been in this world before, like I have had family members who have, so like I don't know, some parts seemed very true to life. Like for instance, the part when they're kind of being interviewed, and they're
Mhm.
getting asked all these like really simple questions, like what kind of tree would you be
Right.
if you could be a tree? And like to
Yeah.
me, like I love Denise Richards' response because she's like, it have roots that go really deep, and it have a trunk that's
Right.
like she just like had the most like
That
typical like
she
political response ever.
homeless children. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm really glad you asked that because again, out of all the pageant movies that there are, I think Drop Dead Gorgeous is the most relatable,
Really?
especially when it comes to. Well, I mean, granted, not like the girls being blown up in swans. Spoiler alert. And stuff like that. But when it comes to especially like the small town local pageants, 100%. And here's the couple things that I think are just so relatable. Like the choreographer. Like it's always just some woman who's just like 100 years old, been through so much crap, but obviously does it every year because
Yep.
she doesn't. You
Keeps
don't have to
coming
pay
back.
her. Yeah. So like that's super relatable. Just like there's always the director and so the director is the person who runs the pageant. But then she always has her cronies, like the people around her that she somehow ropes into helping her out with all this stuff. And they're the ones that kind of like wrangle all the girls and do all that stuff. The choreographer is always a kook. I wrote that. Like some odd person. But the judges are always some schmucks off the street. Like for some reason directors can just never get it together to like find super qualified judges, and then they wait too long, and then you literally like what makes me so mad, and then this is going back to like these times, is when you see directors on Facebook being like, can anyone judge my pageant on Saturday? Like you shouldn't be trying to find a judge 3 days before the pageant. That's when you're going to get homeless people off the street.
And you
are
just spent a year preparing for
not
this, and
qualified whatsoever. And I
now
know
you're getting judged by in the movie is one of the guys' names is John Doe.
John Doe, yeah.
Like the movie's so subtle. I love it. John Doe
yeah,
is one of the names.
yeah, and now the fate, like your future is in the hands of these people who have like, first of all, when you're a judge, you are there all day. You're at the pageant all day. You're not paid for this. You're taking time out of your day. It's either a Saturday or a Sunday. You maybe get a free lunch, and you're sitting there asking very similar questions to every single girl. Um, and sometimes, like I will say, as a judge, sometimes you're more nervous than they are. But then you get the judges too who literally don't even know what questions to ask, and that's when you get questions like, "Why is your favorite color? What's your favorite color?" Like that's when you just know as a contestant, I'm like, this person is a piece of nothing off the street who could care less. Why
Who
am I
saw
trying to
one pageant movie and now they're asking the same questions?
why am I yeah, why am I trying to impress this person?
Is it always patriotic, or
No,
is there always one person who always like the Denise Richards? So they're like,
there is.
what's
Yes, I'm glad you
okay?
brought that up because there always is. Hold on, I wrote it down. There's always going to be okay. I'm taking this from the intro of the pageants. Yeah, with the picture that you have, Mikey, when they all come out with their patriotic stuff, there's always going to be the perfect one, which is Denise Richards. There's
Yep.
always going to be that one that's just like so prepared, almost too prepared to the point of everything is memorized. There's always going to be the slutty one with a gross boyfriend who's inappropriate in the audience, who yells like gross things in the audience.
Who
So that
was that? That was Amy
was
Adams.
Yeah, Amy
Yep.
Adams.
Yep.
There's always going to be the wholesome one, who's obviously Kirsten Dunst, like the one who really should win,
Yep.
because she's just there for all the right reasons. She wants to be Diane Sawyer. She's just like happy-go-lucky, slice of life, like works at a morgue.
Yeah, the usual.
There's there's always the girl that like she's so funny but doesn't mean to be, and she the one who can't stop laughing, like Britney Murphy. Like they're obviously unprepared, and they come on, they're like, "Hi." There's always that girl.
They speak into the microphone way too loudly the first time.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
there is always the yarn girl. There is always a girl who you wonder why she's there, who told her she should compete, from like a town you've never heard of, 5 hours away from you. Ours is Barrington, New Hampshire. There's always a girl
Yeah.
from Barrington, um, she's the one who does like the barking as the town.
Wait, is that real?
No, in the movie.
Okay, I was gonna
She's
say.
Yeah, when she's doing the different dog barks. Yeah.
Fun fact that the first pageant I was in that I was telling you about, I got the girl from Barrington who lived on a farm. She was telling me backstage how she lived on a farm and she had a bunch of goats. And I said, you know, it would be so funny if you got on stage and you talked about how many kids you have, but said goat kids, that is. Like, obviously joking, she's not going to do it. And she did. She got out there and she's like, my name is so and so, and I have 28 kids. Goat kids, that is. Crowd was like not fun. That was. I'm like, I'm sorry. No one should listen to me.
Oh,
There's always the girls who have like the Denise Richards, like the very professionally made costumes that probably cost so much money, and then there's
more than a wedding dress.
yeah, then there's the girls who obviously like put it together by themselves in their basement, like with no help at all. There's always the girl who's gonna have the mom who puts 8,000 stones on her gown. That's just the way it is. Like, so that's why I do think it is. Oh, and then when they're like, she wins a $500 scholarship to the Vogue Tech of her choice.
Oh yeah.
I have done pageants where they have awarded scholarships for colleges in like Louisiana.
Oh wow! And
And I
do
know a
people
girl
ever
who
go?
I know
Just
one
'cause they
girl
get
who actually she went. Yep, she went to the Louisiana. Like I
no.
couldn't tell you the name of the college, but I have my certificate somewhere, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go there.
Wow.
So that's why it is so relatable, and especially like I said in the beginning, the point when Kirsten Dunst gets to the state pageant and she's just seeing all the other women who are so talented do their talents and just being like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Like, I think it's actually incredibly relatable.
Yeah, and you know, like I think moments like that like stand out. Like I said, I'm like, not that I've like ever been a part of this kind of life, but like it just reads true, or like just the way that they answered questions in interviews or anything like that just felt so like very true to life.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going back a little bit, but I know Mikey mentioned that scene when Kristen Dunst's like house, I guess, blows up or burns down or
Yeah.
whatever. And she like, she's like, "Oh my God, where's my mom?" And she like runs to it. And she's like, "Mom, mom!" And the officer's like, "Oh, like, are you like, do you live here? Or are you the child?" And then Alison Janney's like, "No, no, she just has Tourette's and she's just yelling, mom." Like that. I just love that part. I had to bring that up. That part's
Oh
so
yeah.
funny.
Oh, it's so yeah, I just love everything she said. What is it? And when they're leaving the hospital, and she's like, Kirsten Dunst says something about like, "You'd be such a great mom," and she's like, "I love you for thinking that I still can."
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really do like a Minnesota accent, and it's coming out really bad.
Oh, don't you know?
Oh
It's
yeah,
the
that's another thing.
pageant.
It's like very obvious, like how exaggerated that like accent is. And
Yes.
one part really stood out to me was in the interview scene when Kristen Dunst is asked, like, "Oh, like recite or like spell all the states
Yeah,
alphabetical order," and she's like, "Okay," and then she goes like, she's like, "Alabama," like
yeah.
and like that part's like it's just so like obvious. I love it. Like it's
And
That's what
I've had to like really dumb throw you off questions. Like that's not a big thing anymore to have questions that like throw you off, but like have been judges at the state level who will grill you on, well, who's this political person? Who's this political person? And then at one point they'll name some random name and none of us knew the answer, and it was one of the judges. Like if you're a
uh,
judge who's there to just try to throw people off, like
yeah.
that's just like it's just rude. It's just
that's
like
lame.
try to get to know the person. Like that's what we're really there to do.
Yeah.
As judges, and I say we because I've judged before too, and a good director will have a briefing with judges before the pageant, and in this briefing, they never come out and say we want a blonde, we want a brunette, we want a dancer, we want a singer. They never say that. They just want the girl who's going to represent the program the best. And they want the girl who's going to show up for all the appearances. They want the girl who's the most dedicated. So that's number one question I always ask every single contestant whenever I'm judging is either why should we pick you or why do you want to win? And you wouldn't believe how many people cannot answer that question.
Wow.
It's
I
a
mean,
tough
it
one.
makes sense because I feel like in a sense you almost get questions like that during certain like job interviews where
Mhm.
it's like, "Why do you want to be here?" And it's like
Why
I
should
want to.
we choose you?
Yeah, and it's like most people, realistically would be like, "I want to make money so I can eat and stuff." But like,
Yeah.
you obviously have to answer in a way like, "Oh, well, I value
Yep.
the company's core, all this stuff." So yeah, I could definitely see like really like superficial kind of answers. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them will say like the first thing on their mouths is usually, um, "I want to promote my." So a lot of times when you compete in a pageant, you have a platform, so it's just something you like care closely about. I want to promote my platform, or um, I think a lot of times they truly haven't thought about it. Or two certain pageants, some scholarship is involved, so they're like, I want to hopefully win some scholarship to further my education. Um, but like the honest answer for me that I never got to say because I wasn't honest was I like the attention. Like
Oh, right.
I
Yeah,
like
I
the
respect
attention.
that.
I like the idea of wearing a crown, which maybe then I was in it for all the wrong reasons.
I want to be British royalty.
Yeah, right. This is the
uh,
closest I'll ever be to that. So
Yeah.
well, just
wow.
humor me.
The because I know this is more about learning about the pageantry than the actual movie we watched, but one of my favorite parts of the movie is like the post credits almost like, so you said she wants to be Diane Sawyer, the whole
Yeah,
movie she wants to be Diane Sawyer. Like the post credits of the movie, like it fades to black and then it shows Kirstie Alley escapes prison, has a
yeah,
7 hour shoot off with the police,
yeah,
shoots the reporter. Kirsten Dunst picks up the mic, starts reporting on the scene, and then because she's so calm and composed, gets hired to be Diane. Like the movie is so dumb and unrealistic and over the
right.
top, even up until the very last second of the movie, where she like
Yeah.
that's how she gets her gig, and it's just a ridiculous, ridiculous movie. And I mean, yeah,
Also,
the
like that would not that scene would not be filmed anymore.
no,
Like
no,
someone getting caught in a crossfire, like it
yeah.
just wouldn't happen.
I loved how Kirstie Alley had a pageant at the prison and got second place.
Oh
Like
yeah.
she was this amazing pageant person back in the day, and now she's
Right.
getting second place in
Oh, yeah.
prison.
Can we yeah, I just want to talk about Kirstie Alley for a sec because I thought she was great in this too.
Oh yeah.
Like she just acts, she's like that mother who's just like, again, like you said, that she's on top of everything. And I don't know, like she's so funny in this. And I learned like right before we started this that there's something called the Stinkers Bad Movie Award that she like got nominated for like worst supporting actress, and I was
It's like the Razzies.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
And I'm like, to me, she was honestly like one of the like funnier like
Yeah.
people in this movie, like
She's
easily.
evil.
Oh, I
She's
loved her
evil in the
character.
movie. Yeah.
And at the
Um,
end, when she's like freaking out because her daughter blew up on the swan or whatever, and she's like, "It should have been you," and she's like pointing at that scene's so good. I
Wow,
love
that seems awesome. And like also too, like there are those moms. Like that was probably one of the most realistic characters of the movie. There are those moms
Wow.
who are past winners. They want their daughters, like they live vicariously through their daughters. They show up to the pageants in full gown, usually not with a crown on. Also too, just like something that isn't super realistic nowadays. I mean, granted, I'm speaking of my experience. I can't speak of the rest of the country, but a mother can't be directing a pageant if her daughter's going to be in it. Like that's usually not a thing. Like
Nepotism. Yeah.
I have heard of I know women who are local judges who at some point her daughter just grow up and wants to be in the pageant, so she just they won't compete in their mom's
Yeah.
programs. Yeah, that wouldn't be allowed. But so that's why, like, and obviously too, like Kirsten Dunst was the obvious winner. And then I think that because she was the announcer, she said her daughter's
Yep.
name.
Yep. It's the Steve Harvey effect.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
Either.
Do you
So
want to know my theory about what happened, or not theory, but I'm pretty sure this is what happened with the Steve
Yep.
Harvey thing, just so people know. What was it 2016? I think it was Miss Universe 2016. He announced that Colombia had won Miss Universe. She was crowned. And then someone was like, hey, you said the wrong person. And it was actually the Philippines. So Philippines was backstage. She thought she had first runner up. She had like her first runner up flowers, blah, blah, blah. And then so they show her backstage and people being like, you're the actual winner. So I'm pretty sure what happened with that, Steve Harvey did not go to the final dress rehearsal.
Mhm.
And so I have emceed a lot of pageants too. So what happens is you get a card. I've never emceed a pageant like Miss Universe. So Miss Universe, you have your teleprompter and it will say second runner up, first runner up, winner. So he was given a card with the names, but he didn't rehearse it. So I think what happened was sometimes they announce the winner's name instead of the first runner up, just because it's like you say the first runner up's name and then the winner's just standing there weirdly. So sometimes instead of saying the first runner up's name, they just say the winner.
Mhm.
So I think because he was looking at the prompter, but he was looking at this. So he was seeing the winner's name, but I think he was announcing it, or I might be saying it backwards. I think he just said it in the wrong term. He wasn't
You
trying
read the first name you see.
what?
Like you read the first name you see. You
Yeah,
just
I
open it
think
and you're
that's
like,
what
oh,
he did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
that's what he did. He just read that next name and it wasn't the right one. So, but it worked out kind of in his favor. He apologized, and he's been the host ever since.
Wasn't
And
as bad
he
as
jokes about it. He jokes about it. The girls joke about
yeah,
it. So I mean, it's Steve Harvey. Like he's a comedian. He's gonna laugh it off,
yeah.
and it is what it is. Like
Wasn't
he's
as bad as the Adina Menzel. So the
what?
Oh
pronunciation
yeah,
of it.
true.
Adina
Oh, I
Menzel.
forgot
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Yep.
Or
Did you
even
call her?
it might have been you said 2016 that happened, right? With Steve Harvey.
Was it 2016? I think it was either
I
2015 or 2016.
I don't remember, but I know the 2017 Oscars. Remember there was the whole thing where they announced La La
Oh,
Land won, and then it was really Moonlight or
Moonlight.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Yep.
it's like,
Yeah.
how? But
Common.
whatever.
But also with that, like it's live TV, so they usually announce the winner. Like if the pageant's ending at 11, they announce the winner at like 10:57. So the fact that they had to like go back, like that was just a lot of craziness at once on live TV. So
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway.
I think so. One thing I wanted to point out too here. So you're writing a book,
Mhm.
right? About your
Yeah.
pageantry, and it's called what you said earlier. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
could you kind of, if we have any listeners now or in the future who
Yeah.
are entering pageants or even want to enter that, just
Or the
married?
kids might want to enter someday.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm just putting together uh, um, just all of my thoughts and experiences because I want people to know what they're getting into. Like I told you, I truly didn't. And I was just all excited of the thought of putting the crown on the head. And it's kind of like that poster that you see with the iceberg where it's like the tip of the iceberg is right above the water, but then like everything else that goes into it that you just
Mm-hmm.
don't think about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had some really, really incredible experiences in pageantry, and I've had others that make me question like why I do it, why am I here, what else could I be doing with my time? So this book is essentially about just how what I've been through growing up, you know, trying to get into modeling, trying to do pageants, all the wins, all the losses, which the losses very much outweigh the wins, um, the things that I missed out on, but also the great things that I've taken from it too. I'm not here to say I'm writing a trash book about pageantry. That's absolutely
Yeah.
not what I'm doing. But I think a lot of times like you only ever see the surface stuff when it comes to pageants. You don't see what goes into it. You don't see the months and months of preparation only to not make the top 10. You don't see the money that we put into it, the
Mm-hmm.
investment. You don't see, the girls crying backstage because they, um, you know, just everything. I mean, anything will trigger you at that point, just because you're so vulnerable. It's been such an experience, and like a lot of times too, I mean, some of the pageants that I've done, you like go and you live there for almost a week or two. So at that point, you haven't seen your family. You are tired. You're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're in bed around midnight. Like it's a lot. It's a very difficult thing to put yourself through to not get a lot out of it. So I look at it like I guess I'm at a point now in my life where time is money. So I'm like, if it's not making me money or not making me laugh,
Yeah.
I don't really want to be a part of it. I don't know if that's bad, but or negative
No,
because
that's the
I'm not a
older we
negative
get.
person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
you know,
what advice would you give to somebody to, for the ups and downs, for the things to be cautious about or excited about? What would
so
be
number one thing is just surround yourself with people that you trust because in modeling, in pageantry, and a lot of things, there's going to be people who try to take advantage of you. There are going to be people who want your money, and understand that even if it is a not-for-profit that you're competing in, it's still a business. Pageants are a business, modeling agencies are a business. um, they're out to make money, number one, because they're a business. So yes, it's great because they're going to award opportunities to young women all over who can go on and do incredible, incredible things. I understand that, but the number one thing is I would say is find people you trust, and I think this goes for life too, where like money isn't everything. Like just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to win, but it makes things a lot easier. And when you live paycheck to paycheck and you are putting majority of that towards gowns and flights and hotels and lessons and costumes, that gets really difficult.
a
So,
wake up call to the real world that rich people are the ones who are usually going to get ahead
yeah,
and have it
and like
easier.
I definitely saw more of this at the last Mrs. pageant than I did, especially because it is a national pageant. The amount of women who have these disposable incomes who don't just compete in this one system that I did, they've I know some women since that pageant, so that was 2019. Since that pageant, they've competed in 4 or 5 more national pageants. And this is with the pandemic going on. So like
Oh,
pageants
geez.
are still happening in a pandemic, by the way. Um,
Wow.
so those are my number one things that like people don't talk about. People do not
Yeah.
talk about money. They do not talk about um, having people in your corner who you trust. Because I've listened to a lot of advice from people who maybe didn't have my best interest, or they just didn't know the best. So like some of the advice that you're always like, number one thing that I hear when people ask what's your advice for someone who wants to do pageants is just be yourself. And that drives me absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Here's why. First of all, my real self is sitting on a couch with a family-sized bag of sour cream and onion like Ripple chips, watching South Park all day long. No one wants to see that on stage.
Yep.
That's not who I'm going to be on stage. Like it's just not. Like that's disgusting. Like you don't want to see me in my sweatpants and like bags under my eyes on stage with a bag of Ripple chips. Like that's not what I'm here to do. I always say be the best version of yourself. So be in the best shape of your life. Um, do your makeup or have your makeup done to accentuate how gorgeous you are. Have your hair exactly the way that you think is going to be beautiful on stage. Like that's why I would just let people know they should strive to be the best version of who they can possibly be to represent a program because ultimately you're being chosen to represent a program so you're not just yourself anymore.
Mhm.
And this is actually advice that was given to me back in 2009 when I became an RA, and they said you are no longer Becky from science class. You're no longer Becky from um, the tour guide. You are Becky, the RA. And that goes for pageants. The very first pageant you ever do, you are no longer just a regular girl in from school or this, that, the other thing. Like you are a pageant girl for the rest of your life.
Sounds
Even if
like
you
the army.
what?
Sounds like the army. Like there's no looking back. This is who
There
you are
really
now.
kind of like there isn't like
Wow.
for the rest of your life you will be someone who did pageants.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that's a negative thing by any means, but when you are caught out at a frat doing a keg stand, they're going to be like, isn't that girl Miss so and so? And if pictures
Wow.
get taken of you and sent to I'm not saying this ever happened to me, but like if pictures get taken of you and sent to the wrong people, stuff happens. Like so those are the couple of the things that I
Well, I mean, look at Michael Phelps. I mean, Michael Phelps got caught with the bong and
mhm,
lost endorsements and all that. Before we wrap up here, I want to ask one question because I know how I feel about these things. As
yeah.
somebody who has been a model before, how do you feel with all of the Instagram people who take a picture of themselves in front of a mountain and then put model in their profile and they go around telling people I'm an Instagram model? What do you think about the new version of like you used to have to get hired to be a
Yeah,
model to call yourself a model, and
yeah.
now everybody's a model? What does that mean to
Um,
you as somebody?
to me, it's not good, bad, or indifferent. It's just people who enjoy having their photo taken and they're putting it out there for the world. If that leads them anywhere, great. That kind of reminds me of I just watched a documentary about what's the OnlyFans, like how easy it
Yeah,
is now to be in the adult film industry, and you don't have to pay an agent, you don't have to go by like people are living by their own rules now.
they're making millions of dollars a year, if not a month. Some of them are making a
Right.
million a month.
But then now it's also getting super saturated because it's so popular now.
Yep. If you're not in the
Yeah,
1%,
you see a lot of Instagram models, but for them, like, will it turn into anything paid? Who knows? So for me, I'm like, good for you. If that works for you, do your thing. Like, I don't
yeah,
care. I guess we're all models, right?
that's what I always tell myself.
We're all on the
So,
stage of life.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are
uh,
entertainers. Like you
yeah,
have
But I
a
have
life.
to say too, like great advice, and it kind of like I think a lot of that can obviously be applied to a lot of industries in life, and I've
Yeah,
dabbled and still do work in the film industry to some extent, and I think a lot of that can apply to that too, where it's like a lot of people go in with really wild aspirations and that are usually shot down to a degree, and
yeah,
you kind of just have to like go in and not really expect that you're gonna get everything you want right off the bat, or like it just kind of it is the way it is. You're right. It's like there's money if there's money to be made, like people are trying to kind of make money off this or off you specifically. So yeah,
right.
very very sound advice for sure.
Yeah, in anything like, and I'm not saying, and I hope people aren't taking this the wrong way, like, oh, she said that you have to have millions of dollars to do a pageant. I'm like, no, that's not the case. Like, for me, I just always make a budget, and I'll go into a pageant being like, I have this much money, and here is what I want to put it towards, and then I
mhm.
really, really try to stick in that, and you can still be very successful, and not be super wealthy, but the ones who can afford those $6,000 gowns, the super expensive talent costumes. Like
Wow.
you can tell a weight is like off their shoulders, that the girls who are kind of struggling money wise, that they have that weight.
It's life, man. Well, so in terms of wrapping up, you can find us on our social media. I think our Twitter is Weiliotis, Instagram and in Facebook are the Weiliotis Podcast. Our website's not bad. I was on it the other day, the WeiliotisPodcast.com. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, all those. Becky, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah.
Are you putting out chapters of your book at a time? Are you going to release it all at once? Like, do you have a pageant social media profile?
So I have my personal one, and my personal page is Look at Me Becky, because I always say that like Instagram is just basically look at me, like look at me doing this thing, look at my face. And then
Very
usually
funny.
there's some type of inspirational quote when you see those models on the mountains. My favorite is when like it's like a picture of a girl in her bathing suit and it's like a quote from Gandhi.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Don't go
everybody on social media.
But yeah, so my Instagram is Look at Me Becky, and I also created a pageant Instagram that only has 66 followers, but it's called Pageant Problems with a Z,
Awesome.
and it really just speaks to, it's just memes that are pertaining to pageants. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's where you
Well,
can find me. I'm not super interesting, but you can find me.
well, thank you for coming on. I hope we
Yeah,
get
thanks
you,
for having
a
me.
few more followers. We'll tweet and post on Instagram about your book
Awesome.
when it comes out. So keep us updated. Obviously, we'll be in touch since then. But
Totally.
any closing words, Tom?
Um, no, other than thank you again, Becky, for coming on. This was fun, and
Yeah.
I am very glad I got to watch this movie finally because, like I said, I've heard about it for years, and yeah, I'm gonna be watching it. I think for a long time. It's
If anything, it was just so entertaining catching up with that movie. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
it's been a
So
while.
funny. It was
20,
really nice to
22
meet you,
years.
Tom and Mikey.
Yeah.
Always nice seeing you.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
yeah,
Bye,
thank
guys.
you.